We will call the council meeting to order. Everybody stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, take the roll.
Mayor O'Connor?
Here.
Morissette?
Here.
Wakefield?
Here.
Knutson? Here. Kennedy?
Here.
Brooke?
Here.
Hall?
Here.
All right, next up is comments and suggestions from citizens present. This is your opportunity to weigh in on any topic that you think is should be considered for or is before the city council right now, but is not on tonight's agenda. If you do have a comment, please come to the podium, identify yourself, give your address. Please try to keep your comments brief and try not to repeat other people's comments. So, does anyone have a comment?
My name is Nancy Christensen. I live at 821 4th Street in Hudson. I'm here tonight because in the past few weeks, ICE has come into Hudson twice without notice and taken people from our neighborhoods. These individuals were living and working here. They are part of our community. They are not violent criminals. I know this because our Hudson Police Department wasn't even informed, and if they had been real threats to public safety, I would assume our local police would have been involved. But they weren't. That tells me that these actions are not about safety, they are about fear and power and targeting people who are simply trying to live their lives. This raid happened in silence without transparency and accountability, and the people who are affected the most are our neighbors, our coworkers, and our friends that are left confused and afraid. That's not acceptable, and that's not who Hudson should be. So tonight, I'm asking you to take action. I'm asking you to make Hudson a sanctuary city, one that does not cooperate with ICE and that publicly commits to protecting all residents, regardless of immigration status. We can't control what ICE is doing everywhere, but we can say that they are not welcome to come into our city and tear families apart. Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy.
Thank you, Nancy.
Any other comments? Any other comments? Any other comments? Any other comments? Hearing none, we'll close that portion of the agenda. I did want to mention, in case there's anybody here that is in attendance for the short-term rental issue that we said would be on tonight's agenda, we pulled that from the agenda because our regular city attorney is not here tonight, and we would need him here. He's been the one that was most involved in the drafting of the language, and we needed him here to explain it. So that will be taken up at the next council meeting. And that would be Tuesday, September 2nd. Okay? Keep that in mind. It's Tuesday, September 2nd. All right? Let's see here. So, consent agenda.
Approve the meeting minutes from August 4th regular council meeting. Approve the claims in the amount of $498,646.99. Add expenditure for room tax revenue. Approve Ride to End ALZ event. Approve Spirit of St. Croix Days event. Approve the memorial application from Kirk Klund. And approve the agreement with Done Right Cleaning to provide cleaning services for 505 3rd Street and 700 1st Street.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the consent agenda. Roll call.
Morissette?
Yes.
Wakefield?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Brooke?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Motion's approved. Consent agenda is approved. Next up, we have presentations. The first one we're going to do, we're going a little bit out of order here. We're going to take up item C first, which is amend the City of Hudson Personnel Policies Handbook.
Okay, so we have, the first thing is the policy handbook changes that we have in the agenda packet. We also have the entire personnel policies handbook printed with all of the changes that have been proposed and reviewed by myself, Assistant City Administrator, our HR Coordinator, and our attorney that is present, Lida, worked through this as well. So the basic kind of principles of the review were really to get a lot of clarification. It's something that I believe your previous administrator, Mike Johnson and Lyda, were looking at for a while. There's a lot of changes that needed to happen. We did a patch, I think, last October for a few things related to Wisconsin DOT drug testing policies. But when reviewing it, there was a lot of stuff that we needed to go over and make sure that it fit current rules and laws and regulations with Wisconsin. Going through, we amended and shuffled around. I should also note that throughout the personnel policy handbook, several things were mentioned in quite a few different places, and we did an effort to consolidate a lot of those too into particular locations. You're not going to see a clear red line draft of it, because we tried that method to show you all of the changes that were made. It would have been a garbled mess of just red lines shifting all over the place. So we're hoping that we go through this, the policy changes. If you got questions, please come to me with the questions, or Lyda, or we can talk about some of that stuff here. But it's really, there was a lot of redlining to do to make it clear and efficient for how we've been handling personnel policies throughout the city. So, first group of things was working on those principles, and then going to section 3, we worked on work, wage, and salary policies. Some of the policies from multiple sections were consolidated to improve consistency again in this particular grouping. The hiring policies, we wanted to make sure that it clarified the roles, procedures for hiring. Department head positions require council approval. However, as it was written, all positions throughout the city were to be reviewed and approved by the council, each individual hiring, including summertime hiring. That's not the way it's been operated for years gone by. So I think Mike Johnson, some other department heads that have been here a while, have never seen it operated that way. It's when a position is there and it's available, it gets filled. It does not come back through here along with all the the summertime hirings. So we made sure that the language now matches with what the practice has been. Okay, so that had to be clarified and written out. Newly created positions, however, always come to council typically during the budget process. So that's that third bullet point, that we do not create new positions within the city without council approval, because that adds obviously to budget amounts. Okay, and you saw that last year. We brought a position that our fire chief was asking, an additional inspector. We brought that here. It was approved. I think we had a couple other departments asking for positions. Drew was the one that you had granted additional hiring for. So, and when I say Drew, our fire chief is the one that we had granted for the fire inspector. So, acting roles allows the administrator to approve pay adjustments up to one step without requiring the council approval. Previously, it was written that every single step and everything always comes back through the council. That's a little difficult and cumbersome. The way it was practiced in the past is steps were approved annually or whatever it might be. Overall pay is run through the council as a budget process, but individual steps that would be granted by the city administrator as we go through this. Wage adjustments provides flexibility initial placement in the wage scale without requiring council approval. It allows up to a certain amount within the wage scale to be able to place new hirees coming in depending upon their qualifications. Saw that throughout with the police department hiring in, that if they had experience, we're placing them at the position and scale that they're equivalent to wherever they were coming from. So we needed to be able to do that. Let's see, it outlines the work breaks a little more clearly. It identifies compensation, consolidate policies regarding pay. City administrator in consultation with the department head may set compensation for the part-time, seasonal, and temporary employees to expedite hiring during the summertime. They will still use wage scales from the council, and of course, they have to stay within their budgets, right? So step progression clarifies the timing and step progression. The goal of aligning employee movement to January 1st for consistency, administrative ease. So this policy now takes the scattering of employees throughout the year and shifts everything over to like a first pay period and a January 1st for vacation and pay. Rather than, and it sets up how to do it. As an example, somebody hired on, say, September 1st, they go 1 year, they get their step increase, and then in the following year, that next year, they snap all the way to January 1st, as far as hiring and increase in salary. What that does, or excuse me, increase in potential vacation opportunity, or whatever their vacation might be at whatever year that is in their not in their contract, but in their employment. So whatever year they go to would be on that next year. The benefit of this is we're not looking throughout the year at multiple employees when they get their next step increase, when they get vacation change out. All of that is now January 1st. It's ease of administration for employees and be able to get that all done right at the beginning of the year. So that initial step to bring everybody to January 1st will come with a cost when we decide, and that'll come out through the budgeting process. Overall, for the city to jump to January 1st conversion, so that'd take all your employees, converting them all over to January 1st, total cost was somewhere around 54, 55, 56, somewhere in there. Total cost to bring everybody to a January 1st date. So I can explain a little more detail if you want on how we would do that, but, and I should also state a portion of that 55 or so is in utilities, so that's not on the budget part. So overall cost of the budget is probably going to be around 35, 40, somewhere in there, to be able to bring everybody to a January 1st date and make it a little easier. But that's that first year conversion to bring them over to January 1st. After that, new hires go through that process to become January 1st groupings, I guess, if you would call it that, where everybody is onto that January 1st date. So if you want more explanation, please get a hold of me and we can go through that, or if you want to talk about it now, we can do that as well. Sometimes it pays to see the visual that's in the employee manual too, to help understand what we're doing. Timekeeping, let's see, they did previous, I can't remember exactly what that one had. Expand and clarify to ensure accurate tracking. Oh, that was just trying to figure out how we were.
Yeah, we added some protections, like in accordance with the law for your salaried exempt positions.
That's right.
Just clarifying we're not, when somebody's salary exempt, you can only make deductions in very limited circumstances. So brought in some of that, making sure we have good timekeeping procedures here at the city, making sure people are accurately recording their time.
Yep.
Nothing all that significant, primarily just some legal tweaks to make sure that we're protected.
Yep, that's right. And then clarify the definition of what a work week is here. I added the safe harbor language, and that's for exempt and non-exempt employees. Yep. Performance evaluations. Okay, this is something that was work to try to eliminate the idea of performance review. I'm trying to bring that back into the language. Technically, it was in the language. How do I explain that? Technically, it was already in the language. However, we weren't doing it, I guess. And we needed a clarification on the language itself to make sure that we're doing performance evaluations for all employees. And how do they go from one step to the next, right, within their performance reviews. So we're now tying performance reviews to the step increases instead of just automatic step increases. Now, you would expect that if everybody is doing their job the way they should, or if managers like myself and others are doing what we should be doing, we should be correcting behavior as we go along so that all employees should be able to achieve that step. However, we are attaching the performance reviews to whether or not they're receiving that step, or if corrective or a performance improvement program is needed as part of a review. So that is something that we want to make sure that we're doing, and it is kind of tied back and reaffirmed within the policy the way we have it written. Okay, on to, I guess before I go on to that, has anybody got any questions? I know I'm throwing a lot at, for the first time, look over. Anything on that first portion? Okay, okay. Employee benefits and services. The first is that introductory statement identifying the generous benefits of the city. And I know, Joy, you had talked about every year we are intending to show all the benefits to each employee, what they're receiving annually and what the worth is that the city's investing in them and all of those benefits, so that all employees can see that. And then we are looking at, there was some severance pay, let's
Yeah.
see.
Do you want me to jump
Yeah,
into that one?
jump in, all the good standing language. Okay, go ahead. Yes,
Yeah.
I remember.
So the
that.
term, historically, when employees separate from employment, the city generally pays out, if an employee is good standing, they'll pay out a certain amount of vacation or sick time, or transfer it to a health savings plan or something of the sort. What we did in this section is to get rid of the term severance pay. The word severance comes with tax consequences and tax implications. This isn't really a severance, it's just paying out of benefits. So there's a little bit of a change in the term, but really importantly under this one is to get good definitions around what it means for somebody to be in good standing, in order to make sure, like, if somebody is being terminated for cause, right, we don't want to be paying out paid vacation time, sick leave, if they've done something egregious in their employment. We
And
added.
likewise, if they don't give adequate notice as well.
Yep,
we
exactly.
don't want to do
Yep.
payout as well.
And your employers are never required, unless there's like a collective bargaining agreement. There's no law that says that you have to pay out sick leave or vacation. So what good standing has been defined as employees giving at least 2 weeks notice, or exempt employees, so you're salaried, your department heads, things like that, 21 days notice. And the thought around that is we want to ensure that we are encouraging employees to give us some notice so that we can replace positions by then paying out these benefits.
Okay. And part of that, if you go down to is that the fourth on the next page there, the hollowed bullet point where it says for retirement or death. So we do a sick leave payout upon retirement or death of an employee to their spouses. Currently, we have been managing that through our own, what would you call it, Sam? Maybe come up to the podium quick, but we have currently been managing it, and what we'd like to do is eliminate the city burden of having to manage that sick leave payout and just dump it into the employee's HRA so that they can manage it themselves, spend it themselves, and then they can turn in their own receipts for reimbursement to the HRA program, not to the city, so that we turn it in. It's a lot of added steps that we would like to eliminate, and so that's what we're proposing in that language. Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, so as it stands currently, the employee has the option upon retirement to go 100% into the city's trust or go into an HRA. The benefit of going into the HRA is you can gain interest on those funds, where the city, there's no interest, but you do get 100% of the payout. We're finding that there's a bit of an administrative burden with cutting those checks, with tracking those expenses, things of that nature. So what we're recommending is going fully to that HRA, removing the administrative burden on the city.
And that HRA side, just to be clear, it was 100% to the city's trust, 2/3 of it was to the HRA, but in the proposal in the handbook is keeping it at 100%, but going all to the HRA.
Yep. So then we're eliminating the city's responsibility of holding on to that money. Okay. All right. Section 4.7 meal allowance. The way I understand, the meal allowance hasn't changed in this document for a long time, and it kind of shows or reflects in where we're at. So meal allowance previous was 14 for breakfast, 15 for lunch, and 26 for dinner. And we've shifted that upwards based on the Wisconsin, there's a Wisconsin standard for the IRS. We use that. There, a lot of conferences are in Milwaukee and Madison, which is a much higher amount. And we did an average between what you would do in Milwaukee, Madison, and the rest of the state. So we averaged that out and then spread it out by this amount. So we didn't take the high, didn't take the low. We just kind of averaged those out and then spread it between lunch, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then we also, in that section, if I remember right, we made sure that anything that was part of a conference, we're not paying for your entire daily allowance so that you can go out for dinner at a conference when you already had lunch and breakfast paid for, right? So we're just going to do the dinner portion, not the whole day's worth of your daily allowance. So we clarified that language within the personnel manual, policy handbook, to make sure that it's nice and clear for everybody to understand that we're not increasing any amount for like a single meal payout type thing. So if anybody's got any questions on those. Okay, all right. Employee leaves. Let's see, we got the holiday.
So added in, part-time employees have the ability to get that prorated
Yes.
holiday pay, but only if they're regularly scheduled to work that day.
Yes, and it would be prorated on the part-time leave amount. So I think right now we have an inspector that's gone or changed over from full-time to part-time. They would still be eligible to get some sort of holiday pay for that particular day. Okay? And again, what we're trying to do is make sure that our policies are enhanced enough to keep employees here and enticed, right? Without going over by too much, right? We need to have that balance, whatever that might be. But when it comes to like holidays or vacation payouts, or not vacation payouts, but vacation days, I think it's less of an impact to the city to be able to offer those things out. So, vacation days, we're allowing, let's see, the employees to carry over up to March of the next year. So if they have a vacation planned in January, they can carry some of their hours into that January or February. But then beyond March, you're only allowed to carry 40 of those hours over for the rest of the year. So they're able to kind of spread out their vacation if they need to. Sick leave and safety.
I think,
Go ahead.
Did you modify the allotment of hours on the
Oh, thank you.
vacation schedule?
Kind of
as
the
well?
big thing here, isn't it, right now? Okay, so
Page
in the
29.
book, it's page 27, you said?
9.
29, okay. In the book, we have converted, so starting hours were 40 hours. Actually, you didn't even get 40 hours. It was 40 hours after the first 6 months. But we're realizing for be able to attract people for the police department, we've had to go to 80 hours. Be able to attract people for water and sewer. Kip could probably mention this. He's lost a couple employees to a city or two that is offering more vacation hours. So to be able to go to 80 hours start, right? And then if you look at it, we're looking to progress 8 hours a year, so people are feeling like you're moving along in some sort of scale rather than waiting 7 years to jump to 3 weeks or whatever it might be. Every year you'll add 8 hours until you get all the way up to what is currently at 200 hours maximum. Okay, some employers out there are going to the 240. That is a lot. That's what, six weeks of vacation. But this gets us and the employees to 200 hours faster. Right now, it's at you get to 200 hours at 20 years. This allows the employees to get there a little bit quicker. And it gives them a progression, something to look forward. Every year they get one more day vacation. So that's where we're heading on this piece, is to be able to move that up for employees. Now, I know starting in Milwaukee, they're at Milwaukee County. Again, it's Milwaukee, it's way down there. But they're looking at 3 to 4 weeks starting. Yeah. And yeah, we're part of this metro area, and I know some of the areas are over there are doing it as well, but I think 2 weeks to start is probably a good thing, with the idea that you get to progress fairly quickly to get to where you would be. So,
And the safeguard we put in there, employers are always concerned, well, if I give 2 weeks up front, what if they're here for a
Yeah,
month?
thank you,
They
yeah.
use both 2 weeks and then now they're gone. That's always a concern. We have added in that language in there that if they don't complete their first full year of service, and they say they spend their amount, we'll try to recoup that prorated amount. So say they worked 6 months, they used all 40 hours or all 80 hours of vacation, they technically would have only earned half of that. So we would try to recoup that 40 hours either through a final paycheck or some other means. There are a lot of laws around that we don't necessarily need to talk about today that make that a little bit difficult, but it would still be the city's intent to attempt to do that.
yep. So we would hopefully get that back on the last pay period of that employee. Okay, sick and safety leave, regular part-times allowing to accrue sick and safety, or sick leave, excuse me. Full-time employees, part-time may retain up to 6, okay, yes. So employees are allowed to retain up to 600 sick leave hours, and then they are also able to currently pool 300 reserve hours. We only pay out in the 600 sick leave hours. There was discussion amongst us whether we should pay out more, but I think that's a larger burden to the city if you were to pay out, say, 900 hours or 1,200 hours. Where does that go, right? So staying with the 600 that's currently in there is what was recommended. Is what I would recommend for it. Any other questions on that? And again, you would receive that upon retirement with the city. Okay, funeral leave. We did adjust. There was some kind of funny language in there on funeral leave. We did make the adjustments to funeral leave to have it read a little more clearly. I think it was you would get more time off for father-in-law as opposed to your own father. So there was some strange language in there, and we've corrected that. Personally, I'd go just to make sure he's there, but no, it's dark. Nothing. Sorry. It's terrible. Okay, leave donation. We currently have a leave donation bank. We needed to correct the language that was written there to make sure that we're doing it correctly. Anybody that donates leave into a leave bank, it gets donated at their time, and then anybody that takes out leave from the donation bank receive it at whatever time that is. So it would have to be accumulated and kept track of by our accounting department for what's in that donation bank, and that would be held in a separate account.
I was just going to ask a question about the funeral leave, if I may.
Sure.
I am seeing here that each employee shall receive the 5 days.
If you want to give the page so everybody else
Oh,
can get
yeah,
onto that page.
page
to make sure.
33, 5.5, funeral leave.
There we go. Okay.
I have concerns because to limit it to the 40 hours a year, because you certainly have no control over if you have multiple deaths in your family. And I have concerns that doesn't take that into consideration. Right? Am I
Yeah, because
reading
right
that
now it's
correctly?
5 days of funeral leave per year to be used for the death. And you can read that, I think, a couple different ways. Maybe we need to clarify that. So it's 5 days of funeral leave per year to be used for the death of an employee's immediate, and then whatever it might be. If there's an add-on, you're right, is it an additional 40 days for each one of those deaths, whatever they might be?
Yeah,
So,
I think the
Okay.
question is whether it's 5 days per year or per death.
Yeah, that's my question, exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, we can look at it anyway, it just needs to be clarified in how maybe you would want that written. What's more appropriate, I guess, or what's the appropriate way to handle that. Now, employees can also use, they can use their sick leave for funerals as well, and they can use their vacation for that as well, and then they have the ability to use their funeral leave for that. But as we all know, I mean, if you have a death of a father or, anything, taking care of all of that work sometimes can be a little stressful and can be taxing on the employee, but however, I don't think there's a wrong way to do this, and, it's really arbitrary on how you would want to handle it.
There's no laws here, it's just what the city
Yeah.
wants to do.
I guess I just would like clarification on that, because whether it's the way that then if immediate family member passes away, you get 40 hours, and then let's say you lose, a child dies, they get, to me, when I read that, it doesn't sound like there's additional time off. It sounds like the maximum funeral leave per year is 40 hours. So I just want to make sure that we're being good employers and responsive to somebody who's grieving and going through a hard time.
How would you like it to read? I mean, that's where I would kind of reflect that back on the group here of how would you want it to read? And we can shape this in any fashion that you want.
I mean, I think the way that you have it set up, so the funeral use for immediate families, 40 hours, I don't know a nice way to say it, but essentially per death of those immediate family members. That's where I would feel more comfortable. I'm not sure how others feel on that.
I think allowing the administrator to have the flexibility to decide the plan moving forward, because no one's situation is going to be the same.
Sure.
I think it's important to be
Yeah, I agree.
consistent.
Yeah, I'd want it clear, but, okay.
I certainly respect your right to make those calls, but I think it would be important to be consistent with each employee, so that there's not perceived.
That's the way it should be stated in the book, and then you have the flexibility to,
Okay.
what.
Well, and I guess we can add, I thought we did have something, or maybe that was taken out, the administrator.
God forbid we have to go through something like that with anybody, but
Right. No, I'm with you, Randy. I think that there should be I'd like it both ways, where we have a definitive number of hours, but with flexibility on the part of the administrator. And everybody's situation is different, not everybody's the same, so they're not necessarily all gonna be, or should be treated the same, especially if you have a death in the family, and immediate family that is, involves travel outside the state, perhaps outside the country, every circumstance is different.
Okay, we should be able to,
I did look at, just for our knowledge, I looked back to, I assisted in revising this policy back in '21. That's when we just did, as Brent had talked about, a couple changes. This one is a more holistic review. But even dating back prior, whatever the effective date of this one was prior to '21, had the per year language. So this is a long-standing policy. Certainly, we could change it. I will also say, in addition to funeral leave, like, as we talked about, there's PTO, there's sick leave that can be used. There's another provision in here that talks about if both of those are out, the city administrator can grant a personal leave. So there's a lot of different ways to get leave outside of just within this policy,
yeah,
should
And you're right,
unique circumstances arise.
just making sure that we're obviously kind when a situation
Yeah.
arises like this, so. Okay, we can work on that language a little bit,
Yep.
see what we come back with.
The other one that Brent had mentioned with this will be fairly, it will be administrative change with regards to the leave donation.
Yep.
And really, this is a tax law thing, where tax law says that if an employee gets leave, you're supposed to tax them on it. And then if they give leave, you're supposed to tax them on it too. So that the middle donating employee doesn't have to have the tax burden. That's why this is shifted. That's why this is shifted around. So it's basically on, it's based on tax law, the shift.
And, for that note, I guess too, is not, there's a fair amount, I think, that have a leave donation in place. There's also probably a fair amount that doesn't. I don't even know where the breakdown is.
Yeah.
But it's not something that you need to do. It's something that I think a few employees have taken advantage of here and there.
I think the city gets 1 or 2 a year.
Yeah, I think that's where we've been average about maybe 2 a year. So if that's something that you want to continue to do, we'll make sure that we're doing it the right way. Okay, employee safety. Actually, before we get to that one, I'm going to jump down to section 9, which is a lot simpler than employee safety. Okay, so computer and AI policies, things are changing significantly within this area, especially with the required VCISO requirements for added security. The federal government is requiring added security for our police department and whatnot. We needed to, and we worked with our computer group, CTI, to help draft this policy to make sure that we're staying clear within the boundaries of what's legal and also what we're comfortable with accepting for risk when it comes to AI and other things, right? We do go through a number of training, and we do require this will require a certain type of AI being used and no other types of AI to be used. We use Microsoft Copilot, we've started to, and that is the system and program that seems the most secure at this point. So I know there's a lot of ChatGPT, GPT, and other ones out there. Everybody's trying to get into the AI game. If we tried to manage each one of those types that were out there, we would get into all kinds of issues and troubles, right? So you stick with one, you require one that the employees have to use. If they use anything outside that, we'll talk with the employee and make sure that we get it reined in, because we do need to stick with something that we can protect the city from. I don't know if that's even an option anymore, but guard the city against other types that are out there. So, as you saw in Minneapolis recently, right? Is it Minneapolis?
St. Paul.
St. Paul, yeah, St. Paul. So we got to take this stuff pretty serious, and so we locked that down pretty tight with this amended policy. So the next piece, employee safety, with regards to procedural details regarding drug and alcohol. So within your packets, we had included, Yep.
So we included.
You want to rattle those off? I think you've got them in mind.
Yep, the
You've got it.
non-DOT drug and alcohol testing policy.
Yep,
You're
that's
referring
something we need to talk about. Yep.
Yep.
And then we also have in their packets, I'll pull it
Oh,
up
like
here.
the policy prohibition?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let me just pull those up here. I think I just want to get them right. They're in your packet. I'm in the wrong section here. Just give me 1 second.
I think you're referring to the drug and alcohol-free workplace,
Yes.
66.
Yep, okay. I'm just pulling up my online agenda so I can make sure I get right to it. Okay, so one of the things that I think was asked when we looked at the Wisconsin DOT policy last year, so let's start with that one, right? The drug-free workplace concept. It really is a policy or some discussion that we have to have here as to whether or not we want employees that are operating city vehicles, city heavy equipment, to also be part of either a random drug test, to be part of a drug test when they come on board. I mean, we already do that for our police and fire, and we do it for some of the other employees that have the Wisconsin DOT, and they're randomized within the Wisconsin DOT heavy, the equipment I can't even think of the licensing, but the Wisconsin DOT licensing for operating heavy vehicles, right? So we require them to take those testings, right? And do we want to take the next step in anybody operating one of the city trucks, the regular pickup trucks, anybody operating some of the equipment, the work equipment that we have out here, the street sweepers, quite a few tons rolling around the city. Do we want them to be tested? And do we want it to be a randomized testing system? So we talked about it a little bit last year, and I know there's a few of you that approached me to say, well, maybe we do want that piece. Or even, so that's one part of it, which is this, they're operating city equipment, should we have them tested? The other part is, should we have the ability as department heads, when we recognize that somebody's impaired coming into the building to work? I'll pick on Sam. Sam's an easy one for me to pick on. Say Sam shows up and you can tell there's the alcohol smell on him and all the drugs smells on him, and he's got the white lines around the nose. I don't know. I'm painting a good picture for everybody, Sam.
Tuesday, let's call it.
You know, there's a few check-off boxes, and we have a form sheet that we could check off and say, okay, well, Sam, you got to go home. It's obvious that you're impaired, and we fill out the sheet, or the department head fills out the sheet, and then we go through the process of having him tested and making sure that we have that drug-free place, because I'm sure you don't want somebody that's working on the books to be heavily impaired here at work. And of course, we also have the added problem of, you know, we have next door, the state next door and to the north of us, allow people to just walk across the border and pick up gummies and whatever else, right? So it's legal to use there, and then come on over here, what do we do? Do we allow the impairment here in the workplace? But anyways, I think that's that piece plus the heavy equipment piece that we were talking about.
Yeah, so I think the kind of questions are, you know, what is the testing that you want to do? Is it pre-employment, reasonable suspicion, random testing? DOT is what DOT is. Like, no employer has the ability to modify what testing you're required to do under DOT, which is heavy equipment operators. There aren't many positions. While the entire utilities public works department is required to participate in that DOT program here at Hudson, there's a limited number. You only have a few pieces of equipment that actually require it, is my recollection.
That are DOT, yes.
That are DOT required, yeah. So then the question is, for all other employees, unlike across the border where there's really, really, really strict standards on who, when, what you can test for, things like that, Wisconsin kind of leaves it open, but you want to make sure you have a policy so that your employees know when they can be expected to test, so that you aren't, as a city, doing it in a discriminatory manner, things like that. So that's the purpose of creating a good policy, and also just to deal with weird situations for various test results that might come back. This policy can help guide the city in through those odd situations. So I think that the number one question is what sort of testing does the city want to do for those non-DOT employees, which as drafted in this policy, the drug and alcohol testing policy is pre-employment testing. There are certain positions, I think all employees are pre-employment tested currently.
Yes and no. So they should
The
be,
intent
yes.
that all
It is the
employees
intent that all
go
employees
through
are tested, yes.
pre-employment testing. There was a,
Driving or not, I mean, just
Yes.
every employee, okay.
Yep.
yeah, and then the question is, what kind of pre-employment testing do we do? Do we do pre-employment testing for cannabis, or do we not do pre-employment testing for cannabis, is a big one. So pre-employment testing, reasonable suspicion testing. My recommendation is for reasonable suspicion testing, you're testing for everything, whether it's cannabis or whatever else it might be, because there's reasonable suspicion that they're under the influence of something. So then you would, even if you're not doing cannabis in pre-hire, you're going to do that while they're employed, because there's reasonable suspicion. I don't have many employers, whether it's a public or a private, that are doing random testing for non-DOT employees, because number one, it's really expensive, and number two, even with DOT, you have, like, the city uses Hudson Physicians does the randomized process of calling who they're going to call, making sure that it's actually random. If somebody's available, not available, it's a huge administrative burden that most employers aren't doing. So the pre-employment, the reasonable suspicion, and then the other testing is treatment program. So if an employee goes through a treatment program, whether it's through a voluntary disclosure or whether they're required to do it as part of a disciplinary matter, then you have you have the treatment program testing. And for that category of employees, you do tend to do some random testing. Their substance abuse professional, whether it's a physician, whatever it might be, is going to recommend that an employer does random testing for 2 years is a common one. So those are really the three categories of testing that most employers are talking about. Any thoughts or questions on
And
that?
obviously, if there's reasonable suspicion would include if they're in an accident of some sort.
Yes. Reasonable suspicion can both be glossy eyes, kind of the descriptors that Brent had used.
Thanks, Sam.
Or causing an accident, or caused an accident, wasn't an accident, whatever it might be.
Again, if that's in their personal vehicle, well, that would trigger something with the city?
While they're conducting city business? Yes.
But on their own time, no.
No,
Yeah.
right,
Own time, own car.
right. While conducting city business, because then you've got a workers' compensation potential
Sure.
claim associated with it too.
I like your suggestion, the 2 or 3, whatever, not the
yeah.
random.
Yeah. Yep. And then the question that I think the city is interested in direction on too, and whether this is a topic for tonight or another one, is whether to do cannabis in the pre-employment testing. Now, I'll give you a little bit of background on this. Cannabis testing, as we know, cannabis is legal in Minnesota. As you also may or may not know, under the Farm Bill, which was passed in like 2009, which is a federal law, cannabis, there are certain forms of cannabis that are legal in Wisconsin to sell. I can't remember if it's Delta 9 or Delta 8. It's one or the other that was 8, which was under the Farm Bill. And when you test for cannabis, the test comes back positive or negative, which doesn't at all tell you, number one, whether they're impaired, number two, whether they had cannabis this week or whether it was a month ago, based on body composition, kind of all of those things. So even when cities do test pre-employment tests for cannabis, you get the results back and you're like, what does this mean? Now, I think there's a difference between safety-sensitive positions for those that are not DOT, but they are driving heavy equipment. They're driving on behalf of the city. They're, working in certain positions that might require, more particularity, so to say, like police, for instance. Things to consider. And, even in Minnesota where cannabis is legal, there's still a prohibition for any police officer to consume any on duty or off duty. So, something to think about. And not just police officers, it's any public safety position where safety sensitive is the word that they use.
So fire, police,
Could I ask
ambulance.
about the pre-employment testing? At what point, if we did that, and have they accepted the position, and we're onboarding them, and
Yep.
we tell them, you're going to need to pass this test?
Really good question. It would be at the stage of a conditional offer of employment. So you received the resume, you've reviewed you've reviewed it, you've probably done an interview, you're ready to give them an offer of employment, but you'd give them a conditional offer. So we want to hire you, but this is conditional on, number one, you have to be authorized to work in the United States. Number two, maybe you have to go through a background check, such as reference checks, things like that. And this could be another instance of you have to pass a drug and alcohol screening.
And it's something that we would start to put more on the job posting as well.
So people know
Ahead
if
of
they
time
want
that
to
you will be
self-exclude
tested,
themselves,
yeah.
right? They realize, okay, I'm probably not going to pass, so I'm not going to apply there. Saves you some time.
Saves us time, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, or
The only,
I was
the
just
only
gonna say the
piece of
cannabis
that.
thing, you go ahead, I'm sorry.
Right.
The only piece of that you have to be careful with is because the Delta 8, I think you said, Delta 8?
Oh, yeah.
Delta 8 is legal, and there's also a statute in Wisconsin that says that you can't discriminate based on the lawful consumption of products. So it gets into an analysis of, was it a lawful consumption? Did you consume Delta 8 or Delta 9? What, you know, it,
Oh, sure. You see.
Sure.
So, but when they go to Hudson Physicians for that blood sample to be taken, there is a panel that can be done without cannabis.
Yeah.
Is that correct? So we could authorize that, but exclude cannabis because of the gray area within the state.
what I see a lot of employers doing is for safety-sensitive positions, they will have the cannabis screening, because then we don't want them to consume any. And for non-safety sensitive functions, then we're not doing that screening, the cannabis screening pre-employment. I see that done frequently.
So the checks and balance would be that if somebody comes in and they appear to be impaired, then we can have them checked for everything at that point.
Yes.
I think that that's appropriate.
An employee, right?
An employee,
Not
yep.
just an applicant. Okay, yeah.
But
So Randy, you were saying the new hires, let's not start there?
No randoms. No, new hires is fine, whatever she was.
Okay,
Yeah, I think he was saying don't do random testing, which is, yeah.
I agree with that.
Was what you said about, in the safety positions, is that what's under 8.5.4 on 68, page 68? Other employees, including CDL drivers in situations where that's not applicable, may be tested under that? Is that where you would see that going? No?
Not quite. So that provision right there is saying that you might have a public works employee that is required to do DOT testing, but DOT testing is only when they are performing, are about to perform, or just
okay.
performed a safety sensitive function. So there are times where even though they're a DOT employee, it might not be appropriate to use the DOT policy, then you'd use your non-DOT policy.
Okay, thank you.
Good question.
Okay, so we had, let's see, we went through the handbook changes. You got a draft of the handbook, the 8/18 draft that's in the packet. There is a DOT testing policy that's in the packet, and then we have the final reasonable suspicion determination report, and then we also have the drug testing in the workplace consent form, which is part of what we're talking about in here. The last piece is the position needs form that I also have in there. So instead of automatically filling a position for, so stepping back to where we had it before, where the council is responsible for all hires no matter what, right? Even refilling positions, those will all come back through here for maybe somebody let's see. Sorry, somebody in Mike's role out there was in the, my brain's gone already. What's that? Okay, so let's say Mike had one of his workers left the job and we needed to fill the position, right? So in this case, we have now, what I'd like to do is a position needs form, where Mike's gonna fill out that form. It is a position that's still needed. I'll review it with him. Any other options, kind of like what he just did with hiring a outside help, right, for cleaning. Is there any other options? We'd go over that, and if it's yes, still needed, Mike's gonna sign off on it, I'm gonna sign off on it, and we'll just fill that position, right? That doesn't come through here. It's just a position that's vacant from somebody leaving, okay? But it's still a position needs form. I think we need to do that evaluation. Like you said, every time that somebody leaves a position, we should take a look at the operations and make sure that it's a position that's either still needed or not, right?
But if we're going out for contract labor, it should come here because we're binding the budget in the city.
Yeah, if we're adding, say that again,
So if he wasn't gonna, so when he came with us with this, we're going to outside contractual
Yes.
labor.
Yep,
It comes to us no matter.
that is automatically here, yes, contractual labor, you're right, would come here. And then if he wants to add a position to his department, again, that comes here during the budget review process. Yep.
Okay.
So that's the other form that's in there, and these are just pieces of the puzzle that we're trying to get together to make sure the operations are a little more smooth and
Can I ask a
getting
question about
collected.
that? I've heard from you and other prior people that sat in your chair
Sure.
that you thought the city of Hudson needed more of an identified human resource
Yeah.
person, staff member, that's the hat they're wearing. Are you looking at, do we have someone that's filling that role now that's already been on staff? And do they sit down with that department head, or the three of you? Work
Essentially, it's under my guidance right now. The HR department's been under the administrator's guidance, I mean, all the way back. I mean, you know, that's probably going back 20, 30 years. I don't think you've ever had an HR.
HR person,
Yeah, an
right.
actual HR person. My hope is someday that we would be able to hire an HR person to be able to handle a lot of those tasks. I think, even though I'd like to request somebody this year within the budget, I think, as you'll see with our fire chief's proposal and some other needs that we have, I think that particular need is a little ways off. Fortunately, I mean, you've got myself, we've got an HR coordinator that has been able to at least fill some of the roles. She's not trained in that stuff, but I'm able to work with her. And then, of course, we always have our counsel here. Lida's excellent at answering our questions and getting back to us rather quickly. So we are able to do a lot. Is it a position that's needed? I believe so, but it's probably one of the last positions that we will have the luxury, I think, of hiring for a while.
Thank you.
Does that answer?
Yes, it does.
So
Thank
it was
you.
roundabout, but yes.
Thank you.
Anybody? Questions? You all done, Brent?
Yeah, it's a lot to throw at you. This is just kind of the first round of it, I think.
Okay. All right, next up, presentation and possible to start a discussion on fire department operational needs. Brent, not Brent, Drew, I'm sorry.
I've lost it too, so
Oh, you can keep right on going, Brent.
I was gonna say yes. All right. It does, at that angle. Well, it's because it's picking up the ceiling colors.
Notice he has a tie on, so he's asking for
No.
money.
It's sharp.
But he did not wear the coat or the white gloves. So we are not at a funeral. That's how you can tell.
All right.
That's terrible.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Thanks for the opportunity tonight to present this report on our fire department operational challenges and staffing needs. Earlier this year, I had brought forward the idea of doing an organizational study that was brought through our fire board and public safety. But rather than hiring an outside firm, staff was directed to prepare the report in-house and report directly to you tonight. What I will share tonight in the presentation is a condensed version of the report. If you have not read the report in full, I encourage you to do so. There's a lot more detail within the report, but for time's sake, we'll keep it a little short tonight. So, I guess before I begin, I just want to emphasize the fact that our members continue to do an outstanding job serving our communities. The challenges outlined in this report are not a reflection on the services they provide or their dedication. But we are at a critical crossroads where growing service needs, unpredictable staffing, and response times are increasing, which is converging in a way that must be addressed as we go forward. So with that, we'll get into it. So just a little review. So the Hudson Fire Department serves the 4 communities, 3 of them contractually. Serve the city of Hudson, the village of North Hudson, the town of Troy, the town of Hudson, and about 1/3 of the town of Troy. January 2027, Hudson Fire may be providing additional coverage to the town of Troy, which will be an increase in more area and population. And currently, as our fire district sits right now, we protect 49 square miles and about 33,000 citizens. So it's a large area with many people. I always say the fire service as a whole doesn't do a very good job of marketing itself because when we think of the fire department, we think of fires. And that's really kind of all everybody thinks about is when there's a fire, they call the fire department. But really, at the end of the day, that's a fraction of what we do, the services we provide. We do vehicle accidents, carbon monoxide calls, gas leaks. We assist the public in many other ways, animal problems, overflowing toilets. We're kind of that last last link before all chaos kind of breaks loose that we all the services we provide. Our fire department also provides a dive rescue service. We have a full rope rescue team. So there's a wide range of things that we do service-wise. Also included in that is all of our fire inspections, our safety inspections. We do all the public talks, the school kids. Last year alone, we did almost 3,000 kids we were in front of between schools and all the different activities we're requested to go to. So there's a ton of stuff that we do as a fire department that just isn't firefighting. So this report, the presentation, will kind of go through 3 things. Our current staffing model, which is paid on call. There's 3 of us that are full-time, myself, our fire marshal, and our fire inspector. And then we're backed up by 41 paid on call members who respond from home or work when there's a call. We'll address the critical challenges. So right now our response times are far exceeding what's recommended per NFPA. That's due in fact to the increase in calls, which has been 39% since 2015, and the fact that a lot of our members aren't available like they used to be. And then at the end there, we'll have a couple recommendations. So the number one thing, when I started to evaluate the department or the services we're providing is our response times. And we're really kind of at a critical point right now. So being a paid-on-call volunteer fire department, and I use the term volunteer loosely, that's a very loose term in today's industry, we're set to a standard of NFPA 1720. And what that states is a fire department, a paid-on-call fire department, should assemble 10 personnel within 10 minutes, 80% of the time for a structure fire. Right now, our average time to get 10 people on scene of a structure fire is 18 minutes. We're almost double what the national standard says we should be at. In addition to that, our overall call times, if you look at our response times, overall, the 9th percentile, we're between 15 and 18 minutes to get our first suppression apparatus on scene. That doesn't include myself or a different chief officer that arrives much earlier than that because we respond direct. We don't have to get people to the station to get the apparatus out. So it's taking between 10 and 11 minutes to get the first truck out the door. So that's far exceeding what's recommended nationally for a standard, and especially with a community of our size and the population we're protecting. So part of the staffing challenges is the declining paid-on-call availability. Everybody's getting busier. Everybody's kids are in multiple different sports, different events. Our members live all throughout our fire district. We have people that live in Minnesota that are actually closer to get to the station than some of our members that live out in the town of Hudson. So again, it's a drive time to get to the station. We have unpredictable staffing levels, and at no given time can I tell you how many people are going to show up for a call. It's all based on who's available, who's around, who's respond. Nights, weekends, and holidays are a challenge. Nights especially because people go out. Weekends, everybody seems to go up north or has kids' events going on, and holidays, people are also out of town. So that puts a big stress on our department during those times. The other challenge that we face is the age of our firefighters. So right now, our average age is 46. That's about 10 years above the national average. We have 10 members that are 55 plus. They're a great asset to the department. They do a very good job. They're usually our drivers. But that's about 21% of our force right now that is not interior firefighter certified anymore. They can't go in, or they won't go in anymore based on age and their physical capabilities. So about 20%, if those are the only guys that show up tonight to go to call, that's a problem, because they can't operate interior anymore. Excuse me. Recruitment barriers, rising housing costs within our fire district has become a challenge. It's not a community where families start or where people come to start families because of the cost of housing. So that becomes a little bit of a challenge. Once our prospective applicants start to find out the commitment and the time that's needed to go to school and the commitment to be on the department, that starts to determine after a while as well. And it's mirroring the national trends. There just is not that drive anymore from the community to volunteer or to put the time in. So that is a challenge.
What is it, how many hours? Kind of give an example or an idea of how long it takes them to get from point hired as a volunteer to be able to head out the door and help with fires.
Yep.
What is the time commitment?
It's about 9 months to get to that level. So we're going through a process right now. We're hoping to onboard 8, contingent upon physicals, drug testing, background checks. Right now, we have 8 conditional offers of employment out right now. So they will start school the first Wednesday in September, and that'll be every Wednesday from now until next May, and then they'll do their state test in June of next year, and they'll be fully state certified. The training doesn't stop there. We highly encourage all our members to go to Fire 2 to get certified in Fire 2. Makes them a better rounded, knowledgeable firefighter. Then the state also requires, if you're going to operate a fire apparatus, you have to go back to training to be a driver operator position. And then if they're going to act in the capacity or work in the capacity of a fire officer, the state also requires they go back to school again for fire officers. So all said and done, you're looking at 4 years of schooling, various times in the evenings after they've already worked 40 hours of their jobs, right? The tech schools provide this training, and then they go to school. So it's an ever-evolving commitment, let alone the requirements put on by the department for the amount of training they have to attend, the amount of calls they have to attend, because somebody that's a casual firefighter doesn't work necessarily very well, because if you only show up twice a year for training and we change procedures or we change how things operate, they're kind of a liability on the scene when they don't know what's going on. So it's a challenge all the way across the board. So,
Do you know what the statistics are for completing that initial training, that initial 9 months of training?
so far, all of the people, since I've been fire chief, all the people that we've sent through to school, that initial training have completed it.
Okay.
Yep. But the national average on your volunteer firefighters, 5 to 7 years is usually what you get out of them before they decide that it's either too much or they move on in life. And that's based usually on younger people getting into the fire service. They start to have families, they become busier, things start to change, and then 5, 7, 10 years into it, it just becomes too much, and then they're done. So,
Could you comment on the Explorer program? I know you told me that once in a conversation, that there's not been an interest of keeping that going either.
Correct.
You don't have recruits.
yeah, we don't have any Explorers right now. In fact, our 2 advisors that were doing it stepped down because of the time commitment that was involved with it. And the fact that the few Explorers we did have at the time, they would schedule training and schedule things, and then they wouldn't show up.
And those are high school students, am I right?
Yes,
Or-
it's, I want to say like 8, they're eligible from like age 15 to age 20,
Okay.
14 to 20, somewhere in there. But yes, in the last year, we've had no interest in anybody wanting to be an Explorer. So right now, we don't have a
Yeah.
Explorer program. So. Some of the other challenges that we're seeing is our rising call volume. I mentioned that before. We're up 39% in the last 10 years. We're already on pace for 4% increase this year on top of what we're doing. Our economic growth, the value of the properties we're protecting has increased almost 50% in the last 10 years. And our population expansion, if you look at the state projected totals or projected numbers by 2040, the city may be around 20,000 people, and our fire district will be approaching 40,000. So you're talking about a metro area at some point. Some of our other high-risk features that we have in our community is the interstate is probably one of our biggest target hazards we have. It's probably the number one place we go to every year is the interstate for vehicle accidents. Luckily, we don't have many that result in many severe injuries or hazardous material releases, but there's 83,000 vehicles a day that cruise through here. And at some point, at some time, something bad's going to happen out there. So we plan for that, we train for that, but that's going to be a big deal when something happens. The St. Croix River, we have all our influx of boating. We have a very high dollar value marina down here that we protect. We have the railroad that goes through town. There's always that potential of something happening out there. We've seen an uptick in calls out at Willow River State Park. It's amazing. I don't know if anybody goes out there on the weekends, how full that park is on the weekends, which is good. It's just a lot of people in one small area. And they've started to install, I guess, a premier mountain bike trail system out there. There's 30, 40 miles of mountain bike trails out there. That's one of the best in the U.S. And we've seen a large increase in accidents out there requiring our services to go out and get them. So as that continues to evolve and more people use the trails, they seem to find a way to hit trees. So we keep going out and getting them.
So the calls to Willow River are mostly accidents?
Correct. Mostly mountain bike accidents, and then there are people that fall off the falls
Okay, yeah.
and are injured
I
and
can
have
see
to go
that.
down and get them. Yep. So, and again, our growing senior housing facilities, either the projects that are in the pipeline, projected stuff that's coming. There is an increase in population, increase in different types of construction coming to town. And we're a high volume tourist area. There's a lot of people that come and go from this community every day, all year. That's an influx in population that demand services. ISO rating concerns. I know there's a little bit of opinions on whether ISO matters anymore when it comes to insurance. This last ISO audit we had just had done 2 years ago, we maintained our class 3 for the city by 0.76 of a point. So a third of a point is how we maintained our 3, and that's based off their rating system, what we can produce for a litany of things, but it was close. We almost lost our class 3 rating. I had just talked to an insurance agent last week, as a matter of fact, who called to discuss insurance ratings, and he's seeing insurance companies starting to look at the ISO ratings a little closer, scrutinizing a little more, because they're paying out a lot of hail damage claims now that they're trying to find ways to recoup those costs, and if they can use different methods of increasing rates, they're using them. So, and I would imagine Doug can speak to that, and Troy, that's the issue they're going through down there too. So ISO is becoming more and more utilized for insurance rates. EMS assistance, and I know I'm not looking to get back in the ambulance service, Randy, but we do assist Lakeview EMS quite often. We are a state licensed EMS service. We have 25 first responders on staff right now. We currently assist Lakeview in cardiac arrests, and if they request us to assist. One thing to note is we are the only area within Lakeview EMS's service district that does not provide some form of first responder assistance with them. So every other municipality that they service, they get additional assistance. So we've also been approached by some of our other fire partners to provide or manage a first responder service for their communities. Right now, we're at capacity. There's no way I could take on more without assistance. And Lakeview has also asked for us to provide additional assistance for critical calls. I'll use a good example of this. Last week, we had a person that ran off the road, ended up being in cardiac arrest. 3 of our members transported with the ambulance to the U of M to ECMO. And the patient sounds like had a successful outcome. But again, 3 of our members rode in with the ambulance to give them an extra hand. So we are performing a good service with the ambulance. This is just a quick graph. This just shows the city population, our fire district population, and our increase in call volume. So obviously, as the population increases, there is a direct correlation with demand for service. More people demand more service.
I've got a question about that.
Yeah,
Okay, from 22 to 23, you went from 489 to 618.
correct.
Can you, that's a huge jump. Do you know the explanation for that?
I do not. Nope. It just, all of a sudden, it took a right turn and it just started to increase. It just became more calls. Is it one particular call in general? There's not.
So they all just increased about at the same level?
Correct. Yep. I go back and I look and it's not, I can't say that there was more structure fires. I can't say there was more vehicle accidents. It was a little bit in every category that we just started increased in calls. So, and it has not changed.
Well, there's a similar jump in 2006 to 2007 also.
Yeah, there was a spike back then. That was before my time here, and I can't explain why there was a jump in calls. But, so I guess at the end of the day, what are the needs? And basically it's staffing. We need some full-time staff to help complement our paid-on-call members. So some of the immediate needs that we would be looking for is a full-time assistant chief. Right now, with just myself being in that management role, if I take a day off or if I'm gone, I don't necessarily have anybody I can send to a meeting like Chief Willems has a sergeant here tonight that takes his place. Lieutenant, my apologies. You know, we got demoted tonight, huh? So it becomes a challenge to have that continuity of management and to be able to go to extra meetings and things like that. I'd like to get a duty officer system developed where we would take some of our officers and nights, weekends, holidays, they would be basically on call, whether at an hourly rate or a stipend or whatever it is. And they basically are there to manage if something happens. That allows that consistent oversight of the department. Right now, again, like I said before, there is no consistency. There is no guarantee that there's going to be somebody there. I adjust my time off, knowing when there's not going to be a chief officer available, that I will stay available, I will stay in town. So I do change my plans regularly to make sure that there is coverage. But if we had a dedicated system in place, we would know somebody was always going to be around. So, and then eventually full-time firefighters, 24/7 staffing. That gives us our most consistent response, our most consistent delivery of services. They would take care of probably over 50% of our calls could be taken care of with the on-duty crew, where we wouldn't have to call in the paid-on calls. The paid-on calls to augment for the larger incidents, backfill when there's multiple calls, things like that. There's a couple of staffing options, and in the report itself, it details a little closer how that would work. But ideally, between 9 and 12 would be the ideal with amount of firefighters needed.
And to clarify, that's in addition to what you currently have,
Correct.
is what
Correct.
you're saying here in this option.
Yes.
What's the hourly rate for paid on call?
They don't get paid hourly; they get a stipend.
Oh,
So it's anywhere from our probationary, members are $27 and some change per call, and our officers are $31 and some change per call. So if the call lasts 30 minutes, you make out very well. And then when you have a structure fire or a longer duration incident that's 4 or 5 hours, that really cuts down on your hourly rate, so. But everything is stipend.
I have a question about the immediate needs at the top, because certainly if we hired a full-time, a chief, that's going to take a job search and a job description and so on. I'm wondering if you have individuals already that are on your staff that are qualified to be a duty officer, if there was a financial incentive for them to take that weekend on call. I mean, you don't have to answer this publicly, but, would there be people that we already have that know Hudson, know the community, know the township, that could be the lead person and be reimbursed? And in that regard, it would give you some time off, a little more freedom for your own personal life, and maybe a breather so that you could handle the management end a little better, because you weren't always the lead person.
So we've had this discussion internally about starting the duty officer program, and I had budgeted money this year to do that. The problem that we're finding, and it's nobody's fault, is the people we have right now, we can't commit to a dedicated schedule because everybody's schedule is in flux. In addition to the fact most of our members are already working 40, 50 hours a week. Now you ask them to take on a weekend duty shift or, be available, right? They can be at home, they can do whatever else, but if there's a call, they have to respond. It's a challenge to try to do that.
You're almost too busy to, even though there was a
Correct.
financial
And
reward.
the goal would be, with our salaried positions, that would just become part of
Part of their job
their
description.
duties.
Sure.
So we would have our fire inspector, fire marshal, myself could do it, and then if we had an assistant chief, we'd have 4, and we could rotate through 4 positions, with the opportunity to take some of our current paid-on-call officers, and when they're available on weekends, they could pick up a weekend or 2 in between there, get the management experience and that too. So we've already had those internal discussions.
Sure.
But we're having a hard time finding a schedule that everybody can
Thank you.
work around, because everybody is busy, so.
So of these 3 options, you have immediate needs, options 1, option 2. Are you including option 1 and then adding the 2 duty office and the assistant?
So this just came out of the report, so it's kind of, I guess it's a little misleading here. So the immediate needs is everything that's on here. But the option 1, option 2 at the bottom is depending on how much the city feels would be the appropriate amount of people to hire, depending on.
So if we went with 9, your option 1, and then added the duty and the full-time assistant chief, is that what you're asking for?
Correct, yes.
And then if it was 12, we'd have 14?
Correct, yep.
So Drew, you said that it's up to the council to figure out what we want to do here. You'll have a recommendation, I'm sure, and maybe you'll give it tonight. The annual cost is not just our cost. This cost is going to be borne by all the partners.
Correct.
So why don't we dial down into what is the annual cost here with option 1 for the city of Hudson?
So this is, I guess we haven't got down to that level yet. This is just the overall cost of the entire project. We would have to figure out what, I guess as it stands today, Sam, I think that about 60% would be borne by the city of that 1.4.
Okay.
So we did some quick math, Brent, Sam, and I, on what that would look like.
About $850,000 for the city for option 1.
150,000?
850.
850,000. Yes.
850,000 for the city.
I'm like, wow,
Like
fantastic.
sold, yes. Yeah, exactly, we're holding you to that.
850,000 for option 1.
Right. And then we kind of did some quick figuring, and with, I guess, simple math, you will, Sam, it was about $25 per 100,000.
Yep.
If you were to go to a levy. So for a $400,000 home, it's $100 a year, what it would cost the city taxpayer.
And
Again, we don't have the exact numbers. That was kind of a rough estimate. That was a quick,
Yes.
simple math on the back of a napkin, so.
And what would be your estimate for implementation of option 1? What would be the earliest we could get this? When do we need it?
So I think Obviously, I think this will have to go to referendum for a tax levy increase. I don't think this obviously cannot be absorbed with the current city budget. So I think the best time, so I've had a lot of discussions with state fire chiefs that have just gone through this process. Their recommendation is to tie a referendum to a high-profile election, because that's when you get your voter turnout. And I believe our next high-profile election is going to be the governor next November. So my target date would be next November to get a referendum put together. That gives us the opportunity to educate the public, get our message out, get a referendum, put together all the numbers, go to referendum in November 26 for the 27 budget cycle to get money and to go live with this proposal in January 2028.
Ramifications for our partners, they would also have to do referenda at the same time or later, or what are their options going to be?
Well, that's, from what I understand, because they're under contractual agreements with the city, we could dictate, if we decide to go through with it, that they would have to bear that cost increase. Now, whether they have to go to referendum to get their constituents to agree to a tax increase, or they would have to come up with the money in other ways to fund their portion of it.
So it would, I guess I don't know the budgets for all of our partners, but I mean, looking at this from our perspective, there's no doubt it would have to go to referendum, because this would put us at over levy limits. There's
Correct.
no doubt. Especially with what we've seen with
Yes.
growth.
Definitely.
Partners, probably the same thing. They'd all be at levy limits, maybe not Troy. You would too, okay.
I have a quick question back to kind of the dollars of this. So option one, you have a price tag on there, option two. With bringing on, let's say, maybe 9 full-time, as option one is laying out. I guess my question is, we'd be using our paid on-call people less because we have on-call people. Can you give us an idea of where the savings would be? I mean, like what did we spend last year with our setup with you know 3 staff and the rest paid on call? What would we be wiping out and replacing with this 1.4?
Oh, about one position worth. So about 100, and we'd be saving about 150,000, I think we came up with by going to that.
Okay.
By not calling in.
Because we wouldn't budget for the 46 paid on call, we'd be budgeting somewhere around 20, 25 paid on call instead.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so,
not-
yeah, then the savings is roughly one person plus their benefits. So you're not saving a whole lot, but
So this is an upgrade. This is not a different way of doing it. It's
Correct.
it's
Correct. Right. End of the day, it's going to be more money. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I have some money questions as
Sure.
well, so thanks for teeing me up. So if I understand correctly, option one and option two, the cost for the full-time assistant chief, the duty officer, that's above and beyond that 1.4 million and the 1.7 million,
Correct.
correct?
Yes.
How much are those, are you estimating?
The assistant chief, about 145,000 with benefits.
Okay,
And the duty officer system, it depends on if you want to go to a stipend or an hourly rate,
okay.
for the weekends. Right now, I think we budgeted $13,000 for that this year to do that.
Okay. And then when I look at the net cost analysis for adding these full-time firefighters on page 8 of your document, under option 1, there might, I'm just looking for clarification for me. It says one position for 20 hours at 195,000. And then in option 2, that's the exact same thing, one position, 20 hours, and that's 87.5. So I'm just wondering if maybe that was in,
No, so that's the difference in 2 options. So the first option is with 9 full-time, so you'd have 3 on shift. Ideally, you'd want to have four people on an apparatus, so that suffices our 2 in, 2 out rule per NFPA.
Okay.
That fourth position, instead of being a full-time position, we would fill with a part-time position at an hourly rate.
Yeah.
So we would need a higher amount in part-time wages. If we go with the 12, we wouldn't need that part-time person because it would be a full-time position, but we would use the part-time people to backfill vacation and sick time
Okay.
positions.
Okay,
So we would always go back to our paid on-call ranks to try to fill the vacancies before we paid out the overtime.
okay,
Yep, so that's the difference is we have 4 both ways. One, the option 1, the fourth position is filled with part-time help at an hourly rate. And option 2 is it's 4 full-time people and just filling the vacant positions with paid on-call.
And then it comes down to how you're going to phrase the referendum question, right? If you're going to, if the council decides to try for, or do the 12 full-time, you're going to look at a referendum of 1.76, and then it would be continuous, right, annually.
yeah,
Whereas if you tried to do the partial, and let's say that wasn't working out as well, if you do this option 1, which is, you have 3 per shift, and then you still have to try to get in a part-time or even a paid-on-call in to cover that fourth position. If that's not working out, then we have to figure out a way to make that adjustment. You're not going to go for a second referendum. So the idea is, are you going to shoot all at once, or are you going to try a partial step, knowing that maybe in a few years you might have to go for another 300,000 to bring up to 12 total FTEs.
And that's what Lake Elmo's going through right now. So I went over and talked to Chief Callis this spring, and they literally are going through what we're proposing right now. They had 2 stations several years ago. They're having response time problems, lack of people showing up. If I said, look, this isn't working, they initially tried to do it with sign up with duty crews, they call it, where people would sign up. He said they realized about 9 months into that first year that wasn't going to work, that they had to go with full-time positions, augmented by paid on calls. So they hired their initial 6, 2 per shift, to try to, and then augment that with paid on calls. They've now realized that they can't get the paid on calls to fill all the shifts that they need. So they're going back this year and hiring an additional 3 to go to 3 per shift. So there, if you want a good example, Lake Elmo right now is almost identical to where we're at.
So I have a question. So let's say we run a referendum and all of our partners run a referendum. Ours passes, but 1 or 2 of the partners doesn't. How does that affect everything?
It's a good question. We're trying to kind of figure that out right now, but I believe because they're bound by contract, they're going to have to pay
They're gonna have
their
to come up
share.
with the
They're gonna
money
have to-
somehow.
Yep. They can choose to back out of the contract, but they're not eligible for that till
So 35.
35 would be when they have to give us our 5-year notice that they're going to back out, which then 2040 was when
Is the first year they can
the first year they would be
out.
eligible not to be part of our contractual.
Okay. So the referendums would have to pass everywhere in order
Yeah.
to really make this work.
Or they would have to try to figure out within, and likelihood, right, within their own budgets, how to fit the difference. I think the most expensive one was about roughly 250. So essentially, you're taking the final amount of whatever's left over, it's roughly 600,000. And there's 3 partners,
Right,
depending
right.
upon their call volume,
Equalized value.
and equalized value. And that kind of shifts around a little bit every year depending upon call volumes. And the past 3-year average, is it? Was it
Past 5.
past 5-year average?
yeah.
Thank you. Their call volumes. To let you know, to Drew's point earlier, everybody's call volume's going up, right? So it's whoever races there faster, they're going to share a larger burden of whatever that is. But it could change every year depending upon how that shifts around.
Okay.
But it's essentially 600,000 divided by whoever the 3 remaining are.
Drew, with your comparison with Lake Elmo, it does look like their services include the EMS, and it looks like their calls are double
Correct.
What ours are at
Correct.
the moment.
And I would fully expect our calls would double, but again, there would be no increase in cost or paid on calls because the shift crews are taking care of that, assisting the ambulance. They're already here, right? I mean, we're not calling in people to to go to those calls. That's why we're not taking on any more EMS right now.
Okay.
We just, number one, we would burn our people out, and number two, we couldn't afford to do that.
Okay.
Question if we did a referendum, does that remove that from our,
Yeah,
that whole dollar amount? It doesn't just push it up enough? Is it a separate chunk of money?
It increases the amount that you're taxing all individuals straight across the way. So whatever the percentage is, it would raise, whatever you're asking, Sam could probably explain it better than I can, but, so if we're asking for another million, right? That would get divided out by the equalized value based on whatever mill rate we need to attain the $1 million, right?
Okay.
So there would be a mill rate increase, and then that would be calculated in.
So it's
with
still
the
part of
equalized
the mill rate, okay.
So, yeah, it gets added in,
Okay.
mixed in with the whole rest, with the rest of it. But it's different because it's through a referendum process.
Okay.
So that always stays with you depending upon the wording in the referendum. You might do it 10 years, you might do it 12 years and try to fold it into your budget as you go on, or you do it all in continuous.
But, well, let me ask this, I guess, same question, but a different way. The referendum passes in order to fund this, that is then outside of the levy limits, or does that increase?
It's outside your levy, yes.
Oh,
It's
that what
added
you're getting
to.
at?
yes, that,
Kind
Is
of
that where you're trying to go?
yeah,
Okay.
where would I be without
get
Rich?
you.
I don't know. Yeah,
Yes.
but, yeah, that's exactly what I said.
Irishman.
So,
Exactly, yes, it doesn't, you still have your levy limits.
so we could still
and that's-
max that out and then say, oh, by the way, now we have fire also.
And that's over and
Okay.
above,
All
yes,
right.
but then it's
Well-
still taxed at,
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
And then that money has to be spent on the fire
Yes.
department.
Yep, it's added to that.
Anything else, Drew?
No, I just,
Looking for a vote tonight?
I'm not. I think it warrants further discussion. I just wanted to get the information to the council so you can see the justifications, the needs that we're facing right now. And then, I guess that if this is something you want me to pursue more, we can get more definitive numbers and timelines put together and bring that back, and then we can go for a vote for that if that works.
Yeah, I
All
think
right, so how much time do you think you need to be able to prepare for a referendum?
Well, there's requirements under the state on what we need to do. We need to get the question at least 60 days before the election.
No, that's not my question.
Oh, I
How
thought
much
you were-
time are you going to need to be able to prepare our communities for this referendum?
I think ideally it's going to take up till that referendum or the election in November 26th. I really think it's going to take that much to get it out in the community, to get the support.
Starting
Starting
when?
now.
It's right now, okay. And I presume that you would be looking for some type of budget for a community education on this, communication?
Potentially. I know some of the other fire departments in the state actually had hired PR firms to come in and assist with that. So it's a consistent message that's accurate and it's
Right.
well packaged, yes.
Okay.
Do you know what the costs have been for other communities?
I do not. I did not get that. I can get that information to find out what they are.
I think that's really important that
Yep.
we have a strong message and a very thorough,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, I mean, we need to make sure that there's a thorough education process for the community in order to make sure that this passes.
Yep, for
Are
sure.
you scheduled to make this presentation to our partner communities yet?
I have not yet, no. No, I wanted to bring it here first.
Well, I'd like to thank you for doing all this work yourself, because I know previously, a few months ago, you were thinking of hiring, you mentioned that tonight, hiring an outside firm. So thank you for the extra effort, and certainly the fact that you know the department inside and out now. After serving for several years, you definitely put forward a good package here for tonight, so thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate your extra effort.
Absolutely.
So I guess maybe is the next steps, at least find out what the costs might be, and we can, if we wanted to do an outside
Yes.
promotional type firm, PR firm, and bring that back to the council in the next month or so?
I can do that, and then we
What
can
we're trying to do?
get some firmer numbers on everything,
We
and
need to start now,
Yeah.
we need to start.
Yeah, I just wanted to see if everybody's nodding yes a bit to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next
All right.
steps. Okay.
very good.
And
If
then
you-
in the meantime, we're okay with Drew taking it to partner communities?
Absolutely, yeah, sooner the better. I got a feeling they're tuning in tonight anyway.
And if you, after you review the document too, if you have any questions, feel free to give me a call or stop in, and be more than happy to sit down and talk to you about it, so. All right, thank you much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Drew. Nice job. All right, discussion and possible action on Chestnut Drive speed bumps.
Well, in that report too is the striping piece too is in there.
Yeah.
As requested by
Yep.
the committee. Yep.
Yeah, so hi, Erin McPhee-Anderson, City Engineer. I'm here to discuss speed bumps on Chestnut Drive. So this is an item, there's a little bit of background, I'll try to go over it quickly, but essentially, a few speed bumps were approved to be installed on Chestnut Drive in August of 2021. We then adopted a traffic safety policy stating that we would not be installing speed bumps kind of due to their negative impacts, including acceleration between them, emergency vehicle response time, snow removal, and diversion of traffic to other streets. With the traffic safety policy, we have an online platform for people to put in complaints. And we did receive a complaint about the speed bumps, that they do not want them. And so now it kind of just triggered us to discuss the whole topic again. Essentially, Public Works puts them in the spring and takes them out in the fall so that they can plow over the winter. And we have subsequently, after those complaints, have received some support for them as well from residents along the road. So it's kind of shows us why they're kind of a difficult item for us, just they are very controversial. We talked with the city attorney, and he stated that the new traffic safety policy doesn't necessarily overrule the decision in 2021. So I am proposing some alternatives to get rid of the speed bumps. I think we recognize there's still concerns with speeding, so don't want to just take them out without having alternatives. So some of those alternatives would be installing the flashing speed display signs to say what speed you are going. Those are approximately $5,000 for a solar-powered sign. We do have 2 hardwired ones kind of in our inventory, but we need to get a quote on how expensive it would be for Excel to run power to them. So kind of still waiting on that, also the feasibility of doing that. So that's one option. Another option could be to install a centerline stripe and shoulder striping. Essentially what you would see now that we did on Laurel Avenue up here on top of the hill. We added that centerline and shoulder stripe which is shown to kind of help reduce speeds. We also have received some positive comments after doing that project. So before the Laurel Avenue project, there was no striping. We added the striping with the project and have, as we've been out there, we hear positive comments about it. Mostly from pedestrians who kind of feel a little bit safer walking on the road because there's no sidewalk. So that's kind of the issue on this corridor. There's no sidewalk on either side, and it's in very close proximity to the high school. Taking the bid pricing, we have a striping project going on right now. I think they would charge a little bit more for, because it's like new striping, it's not just laying existing, so it'll be about $3,500 to do all the striping. And then with that is more of a reoccurring maintenance cost to restripe approximately every 5 years. And so we're kind of feeling like we want to leave the decision up to council at this point with how we want to move forward with the concerns here.
What was the cost? I'm sorry to jump in, because I know you'd looked at it. The cost of the speed bumps, I think, when it was first installed, and then what is the life of the speed bumps? Do you remember, Mike?
We initially spent around $10,000 to acquire them.
Okay.
And then the life expectancy, because we do pull them during the wintertime, they would last several, 10 to 15 years, I would think, no problem.
Okay.
10,000 for how many?
What do we got?
4 sets,
Four
I
sets
think.
out there?
4 sets of
Bumps.
Like 8 total.
So 8,
2?
So they're pairs, yeah.
one in each lane.
Okay.
One going in each direction.
So 8 speed bumps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cost 10 grand, okay.
And just for some background, so from my, from the office in our house, you can see straight down Chestnut. It is, there's like 4 lanes of road, and very few people park on that street. So it's wide open, which is just, it's an invitation for speeding. We watch the buses when they come out of the high school. They just they speed down there. The delivery trucks just are out of control too. And then of course we've got kids and that are speeding as well, and adults that are speeding. So it's really a problem. And then we've got a lot of small children in the area.
Is that with the speed bumps or without?
The speed humps do make a difference, because you've got data with that it does show that it does slow the traffic down.
Is that from the comments that were sent? Is that what the data is from? Because I didn't, when I watched the meeting, I didn't see specific speed data.
We did collect some data in September of last year. Technically, the speed limit is 15 miles an hour, so the 50th percentile was 20, and the 85th percentile was 25, and I think that was with the speed bumps, if it was September. Yeah, so that would have been with the speed bumps.
Okay.
I think there might have been data previously done before I was here, like without them.
And that data was when the speed limit was 25 rather than 15, I believe.
Right, so yeah, I think it's probably shown just reducing the speed limit doesn't do much alone.
That's my understanding from what the previous
Yeah.
engineer had said.
So,
And
yeah,
I-
and I know the complaint, the one that said they were ineffective, they said that people veer them to miss them, or just drive over them at high speeds for the thrill of it. That's basically what they said, yep.
I know John had indicated that it was very, a concern of his regarding emergency vehicles, especially with.
For EMS.
EMS and
Yep.
things that really does have an impact on not just the vehicle, but also the patients.
Yep, yeah, kind of that bump, if someone is in the ambulance, on a stretcher, it disrupts that, yep.
I know we talked about speed bumps and how much some of us don't like them. And again, just reading what you had sent us, I'm not, for some people say they help, other people say get rid of them. I know we've talked about more the deeper thing about drilling holes into the pavement that we try so hard to not have holes in. And then the ambulance and plowing and things like that. So, I mean, just my quick reaction is, with your background, you've shared with us in public safety that striping can help reduce, give it a smaller footprint, a road diet. Those signs, I'm assuming help, at least it's something in there. There's a third thing too, maybe we stack rank our issues or our roads that have issues with speeding, and we patrol them more and write tickets more. I'm not trying to volunteer anyone here with that, but we've often talked about too that the rumor used to be, boy, don't speed in North Hudson, you'll get a ticket, man. That don't even go 1 mile an hour over. They don't say that about Hudson. I'm not saying we want to be that militant about it, but if we're banging our heads against the wall every year, how do we slow down speeders? I don't know, that should be put into the mix. I think, to me, the speed bump concept is an old thing that hasn't proven itself out, so let's bring in some new ways of attacking this. So that's my 2 cents.
I'd like to make several comments if I could. It's true we've had several in-depth discussions in Public Works Committee about the potential damage and the time that it takes to install them and how effective they are. I recognize that living on that street during certain hours of the day must be quite difficult because the school has been instructed by the city to route the buses down Chestnut Street. And, when the high school was reconstructed, that was the decision with the city staff that this is what we want, is the buses to go down that street. So it has definitely changed the traffic flow, and I have empathy for how that must feel. My house backs up to 17th Street, and when I bought that home, it did not punch through to Grandview at all. So my neighborhood has also changed tremendously over the years. So these things happen, but we do want to adjust to it, and public safety is very important. I do feel that, I've heard the police chief, because I know public safety has discussed this for several years, the police chief has said himself that if anyone would call in with the number of a bus, time and date that was going inappropriately fast or poor driving, he personally would address that with the owners of the busing companies, and make certain, knowing which bus it was that was flagrant or inappropriate. I know with that much traffic, there's probably also, when I talk to the police chief, it's like, yes, there's an impression of speed, but is it more just the volume of what's going by? 15 miles an hour, I bet most people don't approach that neighborhood and expect it to be 15 miles an hour. A few years ago, and some of you will recall that residents on 11th Street were really pressing for that to be labeled as a school zone. It's 2 blocks from EP Rock. And I was told that it's not allowed to be a school zone because it's not a direct access street. This one's a little tricky because it's a few blocks away from the school, yet there is a lot of traffic there, high school drivers. I think that was one of the reasons that the decision was made to separate the buses to the back of the school, was to keep the high school drivers in a separate area. When my 2 children went to school here, we all delivered our kids, teenage drivers, and buses all came on the front side of the building, which is the south side of the building. And, kids were running across pathway. It was challenging for safety there. And so I think the decision was made to separate them. And that has put extra pressure. I doubt that, that's just my opinion, I don't know that Chestnut Street would be that much busier if it wasn't for that bus traffic compared to 17th Street, Laurel, you name it. We're all hearing that from our neighborhoods. I think all of us get those calls that, boy, there's a lot of speeding in certain neighborhoods. So I do appreciate the ideas of something different with the pavement marking, because it does narrow the traffic course, perhaps making people slow down a little bit. I don't know, some of it I know is psychological impact of it, but by having the striping on the side, it does provide a walkway for pedestrians for school approach, et cetera, or just neighborhoods. I did have one question about that. Do you think that it's important to have no parking if we do choose that route of striping off? Is that a requirement of the MUTCD, however you say that?
No, because you can park, straight parking lanes,
Yes.
So no, I think if it was gonna be like dedicated as a bike lane,
Yes.
obviously we would want to do no parking, but I think in this scenario, it is low volume traffic overall. It's also not, a super high pedestrian corridor, compared to like Vine Street. So I don't think there's any need to actually designate it as no parking.
Okay, so-
Especially when there's barely any cars parking there anyways.
Certainly. So for
Yeah.
convenience for the residents, they could still
Yeah.
park there, but
Yep.
they would also have that benefit, so.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
the students aren't allowed to park there. There's signs all over the place.
Sure, the high school students
The high school
are not
students
allowed to
aren't-
park on
yeah,
that street.
No parking on school days. There's no ideal solution. And the disadvantage of the speed humps is that they're not there in the winter when that's when you really need the most help, because the students are going back and forth to school. Although I don't think there are as many students going back and forth to the high school as there used to be. So the neighborhood has shifted and changed a bit. But there's still a lot of pedestrian traffic around there. We've got a lot of families going out for walks and then we do have like the track team or the cross-country team running through there on a regular basis as well. So there is quite a bit of pedestrian traffic in that area as well. I think that the advantage of the striping would be that it's there all year round, even though it would be covered by snow a lot when the snow melts. It's there rather than having to wait until the plowing season is over to install the speed humps. So, yeah, I think that this is the striping would be worth doing. I think that putting up one of the speed
Display signs.
displays would also be a good idea. Maybe not necessarily all the time, but having it there on a regular basis or something like that might be a good idea. But I think we need to try as many things as we can. So I'll make the motion that we approve the striping and that we,
So, go ahead.
and that, well, let's see, how much would that display be available?
Well, I need to reach out to Excel. The only ones we have like in-house are the hardwired ones.
Oh, okay.
So they need to like run electrical to them. So those would need to be a little more permanent. The solar ones, we would have to purchase one. I don't think we have any of those in stock. So that's what would be $5,000
And
to purchase one.
whether we do striping or the sign, the funding, there's no specific funds available. So
Right.
no matter what we decide, I think we have to decide how we're going to pay for it.
Right.
Yeah, you would have to, if we don't have a specific source out of any of the budgets, we'd have to do a budget amendment to allow to do that. If you're going to do striping, the contract is pretty much, they're almost wrapping up, right? They're
Yeah, they're not
process. To add,
100%.
I don't think we could add it onto this year's contract because that's contract signed and they're working on the project now. We could add the striping into next year's contract, potentially, and then that would be part of next year's budget, if that's what you were going to do. And then you still have to decide, well, are you going to do the striping and the speed bumps, or are you proposing the striping instead of the speed bumps?
Well, the
Do
striping,
the speed bumps there, because they're in now.
right,
We're gonna pull them in a month,
well, yeah.
right?
Yeah, so I would say that the speed hump should be installed again in the spring until the striping is done. 'Cause-
And then be removed.
And then be
permanently
removed
once the
when the
striping is
striping, yeah, right before the striping gets done.
Outside of the contract that you talked about on the striping, I asked if you could get a change order. Did they refuse that outright?
No, they haven't they haven't refused it. It's just,
Why can't we
Well-
execute a change order?
We can approach them and try, but we're not their only client, right? They've lined up not only our work, but work throughout the region, and to add another piece to theirs.
Well, it's up for them to
Contract.
say no or yes or no.
They can say no, yes, but then there's that two parts. Okay, so we approach it with that, then we have to figure out how we're gonna pay for it this year. Whereas if we put it on the budget for next year and the CIP for next year, part of the process, we could just add the striping into next year's budget and then onto the next year's contract. But we can always ask them, but boy, the contract's already signed and rolling. It's hard to do.
So, we make change
No,
orders all the time.
well, that's usually before the contract's finally signed. We do a change order while the contract is still in motion, then yeah, we could do a change order, but they also have areas, I mean, that we're not their, like I said, we're not their only city that they're working
Well,
with.
It might be costly, it might be more costly, you know.
Yeah, it might be more
typical-
costly.
Change orders
because
are
they might
typically
already
more
be
costly when
out.
you have a
Tend to
contract
be, but,
already in place.
But you're hoping to implement something right away, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
Randy.
if we think it's that important, then we should probably, doggone it, ask them yes or no, whether they accept a change order, and then we find the money, whether we gotta go through.
Looks like
and
Mike's
get-
got a solution or something coming up here.
Yeah, I guess what I would recommend is maybe just do a not to exceed number based on Aaron's estimate. Let's just say not to exceed $5,000 more for a change order. If it comes in bigger than that, then we would push it to next year's project. But we reallocated funds from the ice control chemicals to add on all those other projects that was requested. So, I mean, there are funds available for that amount. And so I think that would probably be a fair way of doing it.
And then, yeah, and if they can't get to it as part of their contract this year, then we'll,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all contingent on if their schedule allows it, right? So,
Okay.
and hopefully it's, I mean, it'll take them less than 2 hours to stripe that stretch. So it's not like we're adding on a ton of
on a ton of
paint
work,
there.
okay? Good. There you go.
Okay, so I was in the middle of my motion, but I still had,
Seems
wasn't
like a lot
quite
of
ready for
questions
that
popped in,
anyway.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll make the motion that we request the city staff to add that to the contract if possible, not to exceed $5,000. And if they're unable to add it to this year's contract, then put it into next year's.
Could I offer an amendment,
Sure.
or do we have to second it first?
Well, I think it doesn't, I think you can ask for an amendment before there's a second.
Okay, thank you. I would like to rescind the decision that was made several years ago, August 2021, to put them in, because that was what our legal advice was, is that we had to keep installing the speed humps on Chestnut until the council changed their mind. So I would like to add that we're rescinding that authorization. And we're switching gears to the striping. So
Right.
your motion stands. I just have a second paragraph to say that council rescinds that instruction from August of 2021.
Okay, I will add to the motion then that when the striping is done, that that we rescind the speed hump direction.
Okay, so, got that, Maggie?
You.
Is there a second? Are you seconding that then?
That wasn't my preference, but I would like the speed humps to never be installed again, would be my goal.
Right.
But
All right, do we have a second?
it's her motion.
Well, and just as a point of clarification, I think what she's saying is as long as the paint happens, then the
Right.
speed bumps aren't going back in.
No, I know, but I think what Joyce said earlier was that if we can't get them painted till this time next summer, that the speed humps would go in again in the spring.
Right.
And I think it's time to move past those.
So, all right, so I don't think that.
We
that
have a
amendment-
difference, yeah.
That amendment will not be accepted by
Right.
the original motion.
In the
All right,
spot
so
here.
Joyce, your motion then, is there a second to that motion?
Actually, is there a clarification on what the motion is? Maybe we need
Okay,
to go
it's-
there first.
It's striping if possible, not to exceed $5,000 this summer. If not, if we're not able to get the striping done this summer, then it'll be added to next year's striping. And then the speed humps will stay in until the striping is done, or the usual sequence of events for the speed humps will be followed until the striping is done.
All right, do we have a second? Everybody understand it, first of all? Is there a second? All right, so that motion fails for lack of a second. Would you like to make a different motion?
I will make a
I'll
different,
make a motion.
Hang on.
okay.
I move that we rescind the prior authorization for installing speed humps on Chestnut, and that we begin pavement striping as outlined by our city engineer, to be done this year if possible, with a not to exceed $5,000 limit yet this fall. And if we are not able to do it this fall, we will add it to the street budget next year and initiate it as soon as possible during the season.
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second.
Lynn had the second.
Lynn did, yeah. Discussion, first of all, I do have a question before we get into discussion. Where did the $5,000 come from? What do you think the cost of this is?
Yeah, so I based it on, we do have prices for our current striping project right now. So it was like 50 cents per linear foot about for epoxy. And then I added a little bit to assume that usually if they need another mobilization, they'll tack on some. And then also, it's actually a new layout, so they do have to do a little more work to actually put on the stripes. It's not a hard design, but it's a little more than just the guys going and restriping over an existing stripe. So that's kind of where the information came from. So I don't have a specific quote for them for this section.
Right.
So I'm hoping it wouldn't go to 5,000, but sometimes you never know what kind of mobilization they're gonna cost. If, we actually have someone from Pewaukee coming over here to do striping, then they're gonna really charge you for that mobilization.
Okay.
Can
All
I-
right, and then
can I ask
second,
a-
where's the money coming from?
Right.
I think we'll continue, there was more in the ice control chemical fund because we haven't used it as much in the past year because of the lack of snow. So there was some available funds in that account.
And I think that's what we used
We
for
originally
Randy's add-on.
reallocated that
Yeah.
to this 2025 striping project.
Yeah.
So are you comfortable with
So
that?
it's just
Yeah,
taking
I-
more out
I
of that
think that'll-
account.
That should be fine. Because we already did that with the previous, or the original motion for the contract.
Right.
We could sell our speed bumps. if we
That's
don't
what
need
I
them
was
anymore.
There you go.
I thought the same thing.
And I was gonna second that, but my point is Murphy's Law, right? Let's say we can't paint it this year. So now it's spring and then Mike has to get his crew of 4 guys to get the speed bumps out of storage. Measure them all out, put them all down, and then, 3 weeks later, we have to take them all back out to repaint it. If we know the paint's coming eventually, I don't think we should revisit the speed bumps once they're out. Maybe, leave them in for the next month or so, and then that's the death of them.
When school starts.
No, I can appreciate that. I just, here it is August and we're getting
School
the
starts,
striping
right.
done. So
Yeah.
I have concerns about what,
How soon they
May
can,
through July.
Anybody else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Thanks, Aaron.
Yep.
Discussion and possible action on Lake Malibu drawdown, DNR comment period.
Want me to kick that one?
Start.
Okay. All right, so the Lake Malu drawdown, we were one of the applicants, one of 4 applicants to sign off for the submittal for the Lake Malu drawdown proposal from the Lake Malu Association to the DNR. I believe they have Stantec that was working on all the calculations for that. Well, we did get notification that we're during the comment period. That comment period ends on September 6th. Some of the initial feedback that we received, and I've been watching some of the information that's come in from the DNR, from their engineer, from their water specialist. The initial proposal, I think we all were told at one time that the proposal was to draw down the water to allow the silt and sediment to settle down without, and hopefully then seal that in place essentially, because it would harden, and then once you raise the water up again, all of that would stay where it is. It's not gonna puff back up like a sponge or anything. It settles out. So that was the original proposal. When the engineer from DNR reviewed it, the calculations were such that the drawdown was going to occur rather fast and wash a good amount of the sediment out to the St. Croix by what the DNR was looking at in the calculations. So essentially almost doubling the silt loading out to the St. Croix from what's currently going through the St. Croix. So we sat with the DNR after reviewing that information. We sat with the DNR this morning and had just a conversation on what that meant, just to make sure that we understood exactly how it was being laid out. There are other options the DNR had looked at, and I think the conversation that we had here, we would like to propose, first of all, we need to make the city's comments complete by the comment period ending. So by September 2nd, I'll bring back a letter. Mike and I are going to draft that as to our kind of opposition to the silt loading. And they are expecting to receive that by the 6th of September. Now, as part of the comments, and I should note, as part of the comments from the DNR to Stantec and to the group, the Lake Malibu Association, that additional loading, Lake Malibu has decided to amend their potential application to go from an 11.5-foot drawdown to a 7.5-foot drawdown on the lake, and to extend possibly that period, which would be a longer drawdown period. None of that will likely happen this fall. Okay. And with that, the DNR has also asked that all members, all owners of the dam, which is 4 of us, also sign off on the new change potentially that would come through with the application, because essentially all the dam owners are the applicant, not necessarily Lake Malibu. Lake Malibu is functioning and submitting. However, the association is functioning, submitting the application. However, they're submitting it really on our behalf, right? So with that change and some of the things that, that we'd rather see, there's options for routing the water in different ways that the DNR is going to ask them to go through with that process to do further calculations. I don't see us having any change or calculations until next year. So with all of our area issues with the beach area and the additional sediment loading that would potentially, with the calculations that they had, fill into the beach area and other places, I think it's best for the city to submit our recommendations to the DNR. We'll bring that on the 2nd. We'll have that discussion here. You'll see the letter before we submit it, and then hopefully you can authorize us to submit it on for our public comment portion from the city to the DNR.
Well, I think it's important to note a few things here. The Lake Malibu Association would still like to proceed with the drawdown this fall. We have learned more by reading communication that was sent to the association just recently and copied to us, that we either didn't understand what the process was going to be, or the process was not explained to us the way it actually is going to be. And we thought that there was going to be just compaction of the sediment in Lake Malibu, when in fact there is going to be an intentional disruption of the sediment in order to send more of that sediment downriver. And of course, we're the only ones, the only municipality that is signing off on this that is in fact downriver. So we're not happy about that. However, they had some technical people there today that indicated that by fall, the total or the average amount of sediment, suspended solids, goes down in the fall, so that even with this disruption, intentional disruption, the additional sediment that they're going to be flowing downriver would still likely be within the average that we would see throughout the season, throughout the year. Okay, does that make sense? Mm-hmm. All right, but again, we're not really happy about that because it's at a period of time when that should be settling down, okay? More importantly, I think, is this. We have an opportunity right now, and by the way, I had a conversation with one of the members of the association. They're not happy about this discussion at all. We have the opportunity right now to address serious problems that we have in the North Bay, where our beach house is, right? We call it the North Bay, everything north of the bay that's north of the dike. We know that we've got serious pollution in there. We know that we have serious health hazards in there. We have a beach and a beach house for our community, not just our residents, but for our entire community, that is not utilized because of these health hazards. In fact, is closed to beachgoers for different portions of the season, and that has happened now for the last 2-3 years. We understand what some of the causes are. High fecal content is coming from waterfowl out there. It's coming from the geese, the resident geese that we have out there that do not migrate. They're resident, they stay here and continue to grow in numbers. Not to mention the swans that we've provided habitat for here in the winter by keeping that area of the water open for 300 to 400, 500 swans that come in here and reside here during the winter months and continue to pollute that water. All right. So what we asked them today was, can we open the secondary dam in the spillway? Which, by the way, was also pointed out by Mike Johnson, that the secondary dam is in fact the original path of the Willow River into the St. Croix. The dam was put there for generation of electricity decades, scores ago. And, but that used to just be a riverway before the dam came in and created the lake. So the secondary dam there is a spillway, and that used to be the main way. That was the route of the Willow River that came into the St. Croix down there. So that secondary dam, if you've been through there, and if you haven't, I highly recommend, without trespassing, go in there and take a look at that, so you understand, if you haven't seen it already, what we're talking about. So we asked if we could open up that secondary dam as the primary source of the drawdown. So now what we would be doing, of course, is dropping that sediment down into the North Bay instead of out into the river. But what we would also be doing is creating a current, a huge current, coming through that bay that hopefully would flush that bay of all of the fecal content that we have in there, and the things that have resulted from the silt and the fecal content that have been in there. The biggest problem we have in there is just no current flow at all. And the current flow that you see that has wrapped around where the swing bridge is and comes in has created an even bigger delta in there and makes it that much harder for any current to flow through. And so we're asking that the DNR take a look at this as a possible solution for us to clear that bay out and clean that bay up. All right, and that's what Brent is talking about, the modeling, then that Stan Tech would come in and do different modeling with that in mind. All right.
It was actually a suggestion or an earlier thought of the DNR to do it that way as well.
They brought that up today and said, well, we actually thought about that, but they never mentioned it to us or to the Lake Malibu Association, or at least we don't think they brought it to the Lake Malibu Association, but they never brought it to us. So,
And that would also compact the silt and sediment in Malibu by opening that up and having that water
Right.
go out that way.
right.
Okay,
And
so they would benefit.
maybe more importantly, as importantly, certainly, is if this is a feasible way to draw that water down, perhaps we could make it a permanent solution to create current in there. Not as much water would have to go over the dam. That spillway is not going to suffice as far as the amount of water that goes over the dam. Instead, redirecting it, water will still have to go over the dam, the big dam, but they could be adjustable so that we could have that flow on a constant basis going through there, and with continuous current going through our North Bay. Does that make sense? That's what we're hoping to do. That's what we would like to take a look at. The association now has said that they know that we met with the DNR today. They still would like to talk about proceeding this fall with the drawdown. That's something that...
Well, and I think part of their rush to get it done this fall, though, was the grant that was out there, right? There's this worry that the grant couldn't carry over, okay? We confirmed with the DNR today that grant will carry over. It's not going away if it's not done this fall.
Okay.
Yep, so there's no fear on that fear should be eliminated that they would lose that grant money. It'll roll into next year.
Yeah.
So if that happens, would the goal be to do it next fall, so the fall of 2026?
I think it'd be based on the engineering calculations, could be spring or fall, depending upon
Yeah.
what the DNR recommendations and Stan Tech and that come back with, right? But I
But
think the additional modeling is gonna take them a little bit of time.
The association, of course, likes to do it in the fall for a couple of reasons. Number one, the suspended solids, the average count is significantly down in the fall, according to them. And also, for recreational purposes, I think they'd like to maintain the level of the water in the lake next summer.
For the summer?
Yeah, you want that recharge from the snow and the spring rains to bring that
So,
water
so
back
we
in.
would be talking about next fall.
Yep.
Interesting. Thank you.
Anybody, anything, any questions, any feedback?
So where exactly is that second dam? I'm looking at the map and,
We can show you on a map.
If you go if you take the road to the dam, it's immediately to the left of that road. It's right below that road, just before you take the right-hand curve into the major dam, into the big dam.
okay.
Oh. I
But
didn't realize that.
our concern of the silt and sediment coming through the spillway, going through those little back lakes, if you will, and then ending up just north of our beach, that's not a concern of ours?
Well, this will be done with the modeling. If this works the way we would hope it would, there would be continuous current going through there, flushing that on through. All right, so it would go out into, depending upon how you look at it, I guess, it would be going under the bridge at the dike.
Right, and we
Probably.
might, at like 675, we have some silt issues on our new wharf.
Yeah.
So is there any, I mean, they can model and they can do their math and do whatever. Is there any talk about if the load is a lot heavier, we get, the other name we call it is water ski bay, because you could buzz around there and water ski, right?
We used to be able to.
Used to be able to, but it's filling in a bit in the back with the weeds and things like that. Now, maybe this would cure that, but this might also dump a ton of
Potentially.
sand in there, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
But we're asking for the modeling.
Yeah, no, I like the concept.
Could I ask what you mean by continuous flow? Are you saying that you're asking for a permanent permission to have that spillway open?
It is open right now. There's water always going over there.
Changing, lowering it even more?
Lowering it to allow for more water going
For the
through there
drawdown.
than, yeah.
And so my question is it just for this one drawdown, or you're hoping, so that way it may,
I'm saying if this is a
When you say
solution to
flow.
that, then I would like to keep it,
so that we could have that flow through the bay?
right.
Got it, thank you. Nice to solve that, wouldn't it?
It would.
Yeah, it would.
All right, anybody else? We good on that? Okay. All right, department reports, police. Well, here's a first. You're not in white.
No, not tonight. Lieutenant Bradley Kazmarek, the Hudson Police Department. I believe our July call for service numbers, our report is attached to your agenda. And do you have any questions regarding it?
Anybody? Good job.
Thank you.
Thanks,
I
Lieutenant.
was supposed to collect a check for.
You didn't bring your dog, we didn't get Raider here tonight.
No,
Requirements.
Officer Hall is actually away at training right now with
Okay.
him, so.
Everything
maybe
going
in the
well
next
there?
time. Yep, everything seems to be going really well with him.
That's great. We did get to meet Raider last time, but it's always welcome.
Yeah, there's a big demand, everybody wants to meet him, so.
That's great. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Finance.
Good evening, Council. Sam Hasu, Finance Director. I'll note several items on the finance report. You'll note for general fund revenues and expenditures that expenditures are in excess of revenues. That's a timing issue. We are going to be receiving our final settlement on Wednesday. That's just over $5 million. A portion of that going to debt and a portion going to the general fund. So those revenues will increase here next month. Next item being the 2026 budget and the timeline there. What is on this report does have an error, and I'll note that when I get to it, but at the next meeting, September 2nd, we'll be bringing the 2026 and 2027 CIP forward. Going back, if we remember, we passed just a 2025 bonding that did not include a 25 and 26 CIP, so we're going to try and get back on the 2-year cycle, so 26, 27 CIP. Also, at the next meeting, we'll be asking the mayor to call a special meeting for Monday, September 8th, at which time we'll do a budget workshop with, I guess, technically a joint finance and council meeting there, and that'll be the first look at the overall budget. And then here's where the error is. On this report, I have that it is Monday, September 15th. However, on the attached budget schedule, that does have the correct date of October 6th being the second look at the budget for council. I will email out, but it is also in your packet, the draft of the 2026 budget schedule. Lastly, finance staff will be attending the Civic Symposium on September 11th and 12th. So our our accountant and our HR coordinator will be attending. I don't believe our utility billing specialist is attending this year, just because of some scheduling conflicts. So that's always a good symposium. Looking forward to what they bring back. With that, I'll stand for questions.
Anybody?
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
Good evening, everybody. Kip Peters, Utility Director. Just on my monthly update, Deer Path Water Tower is complete, back online, and we did run a irrigation reduction program up in North Hudson this summer while that tower was going on. We asked for every other day watering and things like that. That is no longer in effect, so that has since been eliminated. So back to watering. Knock yourselves out. The building expansion, I'm not going to go. It's on schedule. We're moving along really good. There's a whole ton of information in there, in your packet with pictures, which make it always nicer. We have been doing a lot of work up in the village this summer, with the anticipation of the consolidation of the utilities up there. We have been up there doing a lot of curb box findings, marking locations, entering things into our GIS program. So that is all up to date. Flushing hydrants, all sorts of stuff. So you kind of got just some lists of what's going on in there and some really fancy pictures. So anything? Great.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Kip. Welcome back.
I'll just keep this brief. Attached was our monthly report for the month of July. Nothing out of the ordinary for July. Business as usual. Two quick things. I had mentioned earlier in my presentation, we did extend an offer to 8 prospective firefighters. We received 7 of the applications back. We were going to check with one more today to see if they still intended to follow through. We'd like to onboard them on the 28th because they will be starting school on the 3rd of September. So that's coming up quick. And just an update with our new fire inspector. He's already shown a direct, positive impact on it. We've almost doubled our monthly fire inspections by having him available, which has freed up our fire marshal to do more of the construction and projects go on within the city with the schools and everything. So it's working out quite well.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Drew. Library.
Last but not least.
Shelley, welcome.
Last but not least,
I'm going to say that.
Shelley Tugas, Library Director. I have the stats for the month of July in the report. Just a couple of things I would call attention to. We have started a series of programs for adults with disabilities, and word is spreading fast, and we're getting amazing turnout. We're doing dance parties, crafts, movie days, and bingo. We've had 40-plus people come to these bingo events, and had people call us and say, we tried to come, but we couldn't find an appropriate way to park. So Katie from parking has been wonderful in working with us on solutions for those days where we know we're going to have those special events. So hopefully that won't happen again. And the other thing is we have relaunched a series of history programs we were doing prior to the pandemic, genealogy. You probably know Amy Thurston and Nancy Toll. They are incredible volunteers for us. Amy does the Hudson History Facebook page. So Nancy has been doing genealogy series, and Amy and Nancy are lining up speakers on the railroad, logging industry, and they've been getting great turnout. And which reminds me, if you like Ancestry.com and you're in the library, you can use it for free with your library card.
Oh.
So, are there any questions?
Anybody?
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Shelley. All right, as far as any announcements, just want to remind everybody, Mike,
Go ahead.
did you have anything you wanted to say?
Well, no, I'll just throw a verbal save the date for our fourth annual
Yeah.
Booyah, Saturday, October 4th at White Camp Park. More information to come, but circle that afternoon. It's
Noon to 7-ish?
noon to 7-ish,
Like
I
that?
think. Yeah.
Well, if you get there at noon, you can volunteer to help.
Volunteer or show up, yes.
Yeah.
So that's October 5th.
Yeah. Fourth.
4th.
Saturday,
Well,
October 4th.
you never know when we're going to be done. So.
Yeah. All right, anybody else? Anything?
Yeah, I think we should have a discussion about the rezoning of the area around the dam. We need to discuss this as a council because it does affect the city. They're looking at doing construction in that area, and if they were to do construction, it would be, the construction vehicles would be going, would have to enter through North Street. We need to make sure that we're protecting the access to the dam. And then there's the scenic waterway that, want to make sure that that's being protected as well. So I think that we should just need to discuss it as a council.
No, I understand that, but the rezoning is that, we're talking about property that's in the village of North Hudson.
But we're part owners of the land around it.
But
I mean, we can't dictate to them, but we can
they're
give
gonna be,
them.
the rezoning they're taking up right now is rezoning on the north side of the dam.
Oh, just the north side? It's not on the south side as well?
No, not
Okay.
as far as I know. And that's all that property is within their boundaries, so
Okay.
I don't know what outcome you're looking for. With a discussion here at the council.
I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood what's going on and how it affects the city and whether there are steps that the city needs to be taking. I don't know.
There's nothing that we can do to,
No, I understand that.
I would say, I don't know what to say. I would say find out what they're doing up there first, because it's from what I understand, the only zoning that they're rezoning they're talking about is in the north side of the dam.
Okay.
And doesn't involve any property that we own at all.
I know that it doesn't involve the property that we're part owners of, but I was concerned about it's adjacent to the property that they were looking at rezoning.
I'll reach out to them and see what they have to say on that.
Okay.
I don't know how often we interfere with the development plans of other communities.
No, I don't, I realize that, we don't have a say in it, but.
And this is beyond our extraterritorial authority. because it's not, they're not creating a subdivision.
See, those are the kinds of questions that I think that we should discuss as a council, just so that we all understand what's going on.
All right, we'll talk about that. Anybody else?
Move to adjourn?
Second.
Motion and second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is approved. We stand adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
One.